The Buckeyes just completed their first scrimmage of fall camp, and there are a few things we can take away from what happened over the weekend. What are they? We will discuss them right here on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes, part of Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, August 15th in the year 2022, and I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked on College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. I would also like to thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we will discuss a recent commitment from Jayden Bonsu and discuss the Buckeyes naming 6 captains for the upcoming season. But before we get to any of that, there was a scrimmage over the weekend, the first scrimmage of fall camp, as we are literally in the month of August. Right around the corner will be the start of the football season. The Buckeyes got to see what happens when the team lines up for a scrimmage. And there are a few things, well, 2 main ones we can take away from what took place over the weekend. Number one, another player lost their black stripe. You have talked about him. I have seen your comments on the Twitter and on the YouTube comment section. I have seen them all. C.J. Hicks lost his black stripe over the weekend, and he is the 6th player so far this offseason to lose their black stripe. The other names that are on this list are Tanner McAllister lost his early on during spring practice. Kai Stokes, a safety who was a standout during the spring game, lost his on April the 8th. Caden Curry lost his April 11th. And then the next 3 all happened during fall camp. Chip Trainum, Jair Brown, and then also C.J. Hicks lost his after the scrimmage on Saturday. C.J. Hicks is a player that currently is, I believe, working with the twos, and he's not looked at to be someone that's currently going to get a lot of playing time during the upcoming season, especially with the way that Jim Knowles plans to use Ohio State's defensive rotations. But being one of the first 6 players in the offseason, remember, one of the players that I just mentioned, Tanner McAllister, is a transfer, so he's already played quite a bit of college football. And Chip Trainum is a transfer from Arizona State. So only 4 of the freshmen have lost their black stripe so far. That's not an indictment on them. Maybe they have raised the stakes just a little bit to just say, hey, work a little bit harder. You will lose your black stripe when the time is right due to your hard work. I don't know what the grading scale is. All I know is if you're one of the few freshmen to lose their black stripe, one of the 6 to lose it so far during this offseason, that is huge. Here's what one coach, Jim Knowles, had to say about C.J. Hicks and how he views him so far. Quote, his upside is fantastic. He really has a great quickness and athleticism that you don't see out of many linebackers at that size. So it's just a matter of how quickly can he learn, get himself up to speed so that he can use those tools. Sometimes when you're thinking too much, you can't use your tools right. So we'll just keep working with CJ so that he gets it down so he can really cut it loose. But I think his upside is going to be amazing. End quote. I love Jim Knowles. I love what Jim Knowles had to say there about the youngster C.J. Hicks, and to be a part of this really exclusive group so far to lose their black stripe. That is a badge of honor for Mr. Hicks. Happy for him. But the other thing we learned, which is something we talked about last week, towards the latter part of last week, is that the DB health is not as good as some may thought, or it's worse than some may have thought. Cam Brown is on a pitch count. He is dinged up. Denzel Burke is also a player that is dinged up. There was a practice that they went through the individual drills, but then they really weren't with the team during the team drills very much. They were off to the side doing some other things. Jordan Hancock and Ryan Turner, they're both, quote, banged up, end quote. And so those are also things where you're thinking That's 4 of your 6 scholarship corners. And now it makes more sense why Jake Seibert, who came into Ohio State as a kicker, who played receiver and corner in high school, is now working at corner. It might not just be because he wants to play a different position, because Parker Lewis, the USC transfer kicker, is thought to be coming to the team here very, very soon. And there's no place for Seibert with Lewis and Ruggles as kickers. Seibert's the third wheel, and sorry, buddy, like, it's just football. He understands. He just won't get on the field. And so it does make sense for Seibert's own position for him to be playing at corner, but also it also makes sense due to the lack of depth and the injuries that have occurred so far for him to work in at corner as well. But then you have Cam Martinez, a safety, and Jansen Dunn, another safety, who are working in there at corner, probably more the nickel corner, not so much the outside corner. But you see how thin this unit is right now, and we're halfway to fall camp. Now, some of these things for sitting players, that will be precautionary. Some of them will just simply be, hey, it's fall camp. This is a week of preparation for a game. This game is not in 2 days. We're gonna rest you and make sure you are protected before preparing and getting on the field for the very first time in the upcoming college football season. And so those are all things that are great for precautionary reasons. But when I got 4 guys that are listed here that are dinged up, banged up, on a pitch count, whatever the category is for them, Cam Brown, Denzel Burt, Jordan Hancock, Ryan Turner, you kind of see how thin this unit is, which is why I think the scrimmage was so important to the timing of it. Now, the scrimmage was probably already scheduled. It was closed to the public and to the media, but of course you could talk to people and figure out some things that are going on. Also, look at the Twitter. Ohio State will announce when players lose their black stripes. So those are all things that happen there. But this unit is thin. In the offseason, Ryan Day made a decision to not really embark upon the transfer portal in lieu of messing up the culture in the locker room at Ohio State. Eli Ricks transferred, went to Alabama. I believe he left LSU, went to Alabama. Sevyn Banks left, which Sevyn Banks was under contract in the spring, so that was something that was there as well. But you just got to think, will this change Ryan Day's philosophy for the offseason next year as far as the transfer portal? That's TBD, to be determined. But as it stands right now, man, it would have been nice for Ryan Day to go ahead and tackle that portal a little bit harder at this position. But that's in the past. We cannot dwell on that. A player over the weekend committed to Ohio State. Who is it? What stood out during his recruitment? We will discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easier to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Be on the lookout. Subscribe to Locked on Buckeyes on the YouTube or your favorite podcast listening app, the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Just like last Friday, there will be days, not just during fall camp, but going forward, where there will be multiple episodes coming out in a day. So check out, be on the lookout for those things coming your way. Locked on Buckeyes is getting ramped up for the upcoming season. We have a goal to reach 2,000 subscriptions on the YouTube, and with your help, we can get there before the kickoff of the 2022 college football season. The Buckeyes recently had a commitment over the weekend. It came by way of a safety from Jersey, from Hillside, New Jersey, to be specific, St. Peter's Prep. It is safety Jayden Bonsu, a 6'1", 210-pound player going into his senior year of high school, a 2023 commit. And this young man, via 247 Sports, their composite rankings, is the 4th best recruit in the state of New Jersey and the 22nd ranked safety in the class as well. He is a 20th commit, hard commit in the class. Technically more than that, but there's 20 currently in the class that are hard verbal commits. Remember, Dijon Johnson decommitted after verbally committing to Ohio State. Ty Lockwood decommitted. Ty Lockwood is also committed to Alabama as well. It seems like Dijon Johnson might end up staying down south in the Sunshine State, but he has not recommitted, as I have seen, just yet after decommitting from Ohio State. Bonsu was a player that took his official visit to Ohio State in the offseason, but in the month of June, between June 17th and June 19th. He was recruited heavily by Perry Eliano, who was pivotal in this recruitment. We'll talk more about Eliano and Bonsu's commitment, and even Ryan Day and how Ryan Day helped in this commitment as well. During Bonsu's junior year of high school, playing football, he had 62 tackles. Not every time can we get some stats on a player, but this time we can. 62 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 8 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 2 INTs. Now, I already said he's a safety. I have not told you exactly what areas he is good in or what areas he excels in. But as you hear that, okay, cool. He's a good tackler with 62 tackles. Team went 8-4 in this year. 7.5 TFLs. That's amazing for a safety. Like, hello. Like, that's amazing no matter what position you play. 7.5 TFLs. I want that guy on my team. 2.5 sacks. So he's able to get into the backfield and assist on a sack or even sack the quarterback by himself. Pass breakups, so you're good in the box and you're good even in some coverage. Okay, we can dissect some things here from the stat sheet. 2 forced fumbles. Is he a hard hitter? Possibly. And 2 INTs. It sounds like he does a little bit of everything on the field. A few things stick out, and I got a list of them here. When discussing and thinking about what Bonsu does well on the field, we'll also discuss what was very important for Bonsu during his recruitment process. Well, while listening to Steve Wiltfong of 247 Sports, he is their director of football recruiting, he discussed the passion that Bonsu plays with. Now, he wasn't just him. It was another gentleman, I forget his first and last name, but he is a recruiting analyst for 247 Sports. And the other gentleman that was on this show with Steve Wiltfong discussed the passion that Bonsu plays with and how that passion that he plays with also is something that you see on the field all the time, all over the place. He is not shying away from the passion that is within him. And I love that. I mean, as I look at the other things on my list, he can play in the box as a safety. Well, we could kind of possibly gather that from the 7.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Were those in the box or outside the box? That's to be determined. Well, we don't know, but just by looking at the stat sheet, what transpired via that. But being a player that can play in the box as a safety, and I've seen some reports that say this man can play nickel corner, free safety, or strong safety. He can play all 3 safety positions in this new defense under Jim Knowles. John Garcia Jr. and I talk about versatility all the time. We talk about, hey, this player is versatile on the O-line or at receiver or on the D-line. Well, versatility is something Ryan Day cherishes and wants players to be that are at Ohio State. And I do think Bonsu is a player that, even though it looks like he might be suited best at nickel corner or that up safety position, who knows? He can play back. He can play forward. Just all depends on what the coach needs from him. He's a big hitter. He is instinctive when running downhill. He has a very high ceiling, which I think is huge. I mean, we're talking about all these things, but if a player is good now and his ceiling is kind of low, you might bring him to Ohio State and hope that you can kind of push that ceiling up and knock that ceiling higher. But you just don't know. But believing now that his ceiling is high, we already see a skill set that excels at the high school level. You ultimately think and believe you can do those things at the next level as well. I have noticed, not just from him being 6'1", 210, but physically, Bonsu is one of those players that is ready to play at the next level physically right now. Now, I do know there's a learning curve. The speed of the game is different. Physicality is different. We heard that last year with JT2 and Malowell, where he discussed how one thing that stood out from him playing college football last year. So physically, yeah, it's a game's tougher, and these guys are really, really strong. But he's physically ready to play. This is something that I remember when I saw Dallin Hayden, four-star running back, 2022 commitment that is currently at Ohio State right now during fall camp. I may have said spring practice earlier in the show. I apologize. I almost said it again. But I remember looking at Dallin Hayden play the football, and I said, Hayden's body is not the average body for a high school running back. It seems like he is more fine-tuned with his body. Now, those could have just been genetics, but it sure looks like he has capitalized on said genetics. If that was the case for him, that he was born that way, he was blessed with those genetics, he has capitalized, been to that weight room, puts the proper amount of muscle on, chiseled down that body fat, and what do we see here? We ultimately see a player in Dallin Hayden and in Jayden Bonsu that are just going to get better physically. They might put on some weight. There might be players that you look at and say between spring practice and fall camp into the middle part of next season, you're like, whoa. Bonsu's been in that weight room. Bonsu has been a player that has been very, very huge. Now, a couple of things stick out when to close up shop here on Mr. Jayden Bonsu. During his official visit, he spent quite a bit of time with Ronnie Hickman, another player, it's a safety, a player that could come out after this year, but could ultimately stay at Ohio State one more year if he does not want to enter the 2023 NFL draft at the end of this upcoming season. But I think pairing Bonsu with Hickman, a player that can play multiple positions in the new defense and a leader on this team, a player that represented the team at Big Ten Media Days, I think that was a huge thing for the Buckeyes to get that connection going. But also, Bonsu credits Perry Eliano and Ryan Day, their connection and the relationships that they built with him as being a pivotal piece of the recruitment process for him. Jayden Bonsu, the latest player to commit to Ohio State. He is the 9th player on the defensive side that is currently verbally committed to the Buckeyes. Welcome to the brotherhood. Welcome to being a Buckeye. And I just can't wait till this young man's able to get on campus and show us what he's got. Also, over the weekend, didn't say this at the top of the show, there were not one, not two, not three, but 6 players that were named captains for Ohio State. Who were they? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. Covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. Have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run, that is correct, run to Built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It will be the perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself. Go to Built.com and use that friendly promo code LOCKEDON15. That is LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your next order. Once again, go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off at Built.com. Not one, not two, not three, but 6 players were listed as and named captains for Ohio State in 2022. One of the captains is also the recipient of the Block O jersey, that is Cameron Babb. Cam Babb is a player who was also listed as an Iron Buckeye for his performance during off-season workouts, and also a player who was injured during last season, who was also a captain during last season. So this young man is doing a lot of things right to not only impress the coaches, but to also get his body right for the upcoming season, but also impressing his own teammates. As the team knew Babb was going to be out for the season, but he was such a leader in the locker room that even though he was not able to dress and play last year, he's a captain. Even though he's not a starter, projected starter, in 2022, he is still a captain right now. The other players that are listed and named captains for Ohio State: Tommy Eichenberg, Tyler Friday, CJ Stroud, Cade Stover, and Court Williams. There are some things that stick out when I look at who are captains and the number of captains at Ohio State. Ohio State had at least 7 captains between 2016 through the 2020 seasons during every year, 7 or more. In 2017, the Buckeyes had 9 players that were listed as captains. During this little quick glance at the captains, there were 3 on offense: Cam Babb, CJ Stroud, and Cade Stover, and 3 on defense: Tommy Eichenberg, Tyler Friday, and Court Williams. There are some that were injured and that were coming off of an injury from last year, the injury that kept them out of all season last year: Cam Babb and Tyler Friday. There are also 3 and 3 in a different way: 3 starters and Tommy Eichenberg, CJ Stroud, and Cade Stover, and 3 non-starters: Cam Babb, Tyler Friday, and Court Williams. Now, there's only one player that I do think will not be playing in the consistent rotation at Ohio State. That is Cam Babb. Eichenberg starting, Stroud starting, Stover starting. I think Tyler Friday will be in the rotation at D-line. Probably a slow pace to get him acclimated to getting back on the field consistently, or even consistently for the first time. But I do think he will be a player that will be in the rotation as Jim Knowles says, that there will probably be 8 to 10 guys rotating on the D-line. I think that Tyler Friday will be one of those players that rotates in that position. Will it be Friday? Will it be Curry? Could be both. I think that Tyler Friday will be in the rotation at the end for Ohio State. Then also Court Williams, not a projected starter, but someone that will ultimately be in that rotation, even at a limited role for Ohio State at that safety position. Cam Babb's the only one that's not really going to be, he's not top 4, top 5, he's not top 4, possibly not top 5 on the depth chart for all the wide receivers. And so when you think about that, you have Njigba, Egbuka, Fleming, Harrison Jr. Those are 4. Babb could be 5, but I still don't think he's going to get consistent playing time for the Buckeyes. So that speaks volumes. This young man has done so much. He gets a jersey for the toughness and the honor and for being the type of player that the Buckeyes want to represent them. Last year, it was their Munford. The previous year, it was Jonathan Cooper. That was also the first 2 years of the Block O jersey. And now it's Cam Babb. He gets to add Block O and being a 2-time captain to his resume. Buddy, that's a great badge of honor for him to have right now. Eichenberg, another Iron Buckeye. The only guy that's named a captain that was not named an Iron Buckeye for his offseason performance during the summer workouts was CJ Stroud. Not a knock on him. Only a select few could be a part of that group. But to have 5 of the 6 captains be Iron Buckeyes, they're not only showing things on the field that they can do that very, very well, not only projected to be pivotal parts of the team in the upcoming season, they're also showing it by their actions in the offseason. Hey, this is what it means to be a Buckeye. And this is not saying Stroud is not doing that, but he was not a part of that. I think there were like 8 players, 8 names that were part of that Iron Buckeye class, that first group. Y'all, I love this stuff. I love it. I love every second of it. And I'm glad Stroud is getting recognized for being more of a vocal leader, for calling guys out, saying, hey, you weren't in your right spot. Hey, do that again. Hey, this is what we need right here, being more of that vocal leader the team needs. I love that from Stroud. Eichenberg and Chambers are solidifying themselves as being leaders at linebacker, and Eichenberg is a guy who is looking to have more of the success that he had during the Rose Bowl during this upcoming season. Tyler Friday, I'm happy he's back. I'm happy he's healthy. Let's see what he can do during the upcoming season. Stroud, enough said. He's not only QB1 of the depth chart, he's possibly number 1 in your hearts. He's also a guy that is being more of that leader that Ohio State wants as their starting quarterback in this upcoming season. Cade Stover, kind of the guy that's just going to do a little bit of everything. If you need him at linebacker, great. Need him at tight end, great. He's going to kill them workouts, great. He is that guy you want on your team in your corner. And then Court Williams, as I recently even read on Twitter that Bobby Carpenter said, former Ohio State linebacker, Court Williams, he just works. He doesn't yap. I love that. I love that about him. I love this group, and I can't wait to see what this unit does in 2022. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This is a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes. At least 4 more shows coming up this week. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTube and on your favorite podcast listening app so you can stay up to date and get alerted and automatically download the newest episode of Locked On Buckeyes. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now make sure to check out Locked On Big Ten, as Nate Dickinson, the host, is joined by a local expert every day of the week and takes you around the Big Ten Conference in 30 minutes every single day. Locked On Big Ten is available in all the places. Locked On Buckeyes is there, both free and available wherever you get your fine podcasts.